Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. So I'm flipping through on social media and I find a post that I think you would be interested in. It starts off kind of simple. It's an easy question. If money was no object, do you think you would stay in Dallas or leave? Now, a couple parameters here. We don't mean would you stay in Dallas proper and move to Addison, or would you stay? It means the DFW area. It means this region as a whole. If money was no object, where would you live? Now, before you call in and tell me, I mean, you can if you want, but you would be so disappointed to see how absolutely political the response to this question turned immediately. Couple things that might hit your antenna really hard is how many people live in Texas and hate it. Now, listen, I was born here. I was raised here. I actually had the chance to move around. Since I got in the radio business, I lived in Oklahoma for around a year. I lived in New Orleans for like 15 years. But I've also spent a lot of time in New York and D.C. just for work. New York City! Right. And I would go to New York for like a week at a time and then work up there when I was in satellite radio. And so I actually stayed and I had to sort of live there for a while. You would walk to the grocery store and you'd go back to your hotel. And, you know, if you stay there for a couple weeks, you kind of get a feeling of what regular life would be like there. I like Texas. I couldn't wait to get back. Look, the next closest place, like Oklahoma, was fine. It was just a small town in the middle of nowhere. Didn't have all the amenities at all. And it was really weird living in a place that only had white people and Indians. You've never experienced that before. I don't know why, but it's weird. It felt really uncomfortable because like where I'm from is ridiculously diverse. Like white people are a minority in the town I'm from. I was looking around like, what did y'all do with all the black people? Like, where did they go? Did y'all... It's weird when you just get used to your own little mix. Anyway, this was my favorite place to live ever. I even like Dallas better than Bug Tussle if money was no object, obviously. And so it's a fun question for me to contemplate because if money were no object, where would I live? Here. I mean, in a better neighborhood, sure. But damn, probably here. I don't know. Even if I had bazillion dollars, what would I do? Go to Monaco? Where would I move to? Because that's the question. If not here, where? And so, I mean, are there nicer towns than Dallas or Fort Worth or just any of these around here? Plano, wherever you end up. And a lot of people are anchored here, and in a way that when you have a lot of initial responses, like when I was talking about this with Miss Parker earlier this morning, I was running this by her and getting what she thought about it. Hi, Miss Parker. And she's like, well, why don't they just leave? If they hate this place so much, why don't they just leave? And well, if you're from here and you have all your family here and you have your support network around here, then you have a decent job here, or your spouse has a really good job here. A lot of people live in places they don't want to live in for other reasons. I lived in New Orleans long after I wanted to be there, but why? Because I had a great job and my wife is from there and we had a family support system. I had my in-laws there. There was uncles and cousins there. And same reason it's going to be real hard to get me to leave Texas. My parents are here. My sister lives here. I have free babysitters that are family members living 5 miles away. I get to go to all of my cousins and other family members' birthday parties and weddings and graduations and events. You know, there's a lot of people who stay here. And so if your first reaction is, why don't you just leave? Look, that makes sense. And we're finding out that a lot of people, if they had money, they would. I find that absolutely shocking. And I'm almost sad for these people. Like, how miserable has your worldview made you that you are living in the greatest, most prosperous state, in the greatest, most prosperous country in the history of civilization, with the highest standard of living and the greatest, amount of residential space, and the likelihood that you'll own a car and the likelihood that you'll never go hungry your entire life. I mean, we have it so good here and people still hate it. It's almost all political. You probably could have guessed that. But like so many things, we can't have just a rational conversation without politics entering the chat and screwing everything up. Let me give you some examples of the people that hate this place, because you're messed up in the head if you're not grateful you live in Texas. This doesn't have to be your favorite place, but if you think this place is awful, you're not paying attention at all. Because almost all the complaints I saw were either completely political in nature, a real issue that is really only a problem in dense urban areas, or a fake issue that they're pretending is a problem with rural areas. Watch it how many these complaints match that paradigm. First example, there was a comment that said, if money is no object, I would move north or west, maybe even out of the U.S. Bad weather, bad drivers, poor leaders, etc. Just not worth it. Oh, stop it. Stop it. People, you would move north because the weather's bad here. I don't know a whole lot of people who are moving into colder weather. Like the majority of people who are moving for weather are snowbirds. They are going from the north to the south. The weather's better down here. Anyway, and also everywhere I have lived, whether it was here, whether it was in a tiny town in Oklahoma, whether it was in New Orleans, as much time as I spent in New York City, everywhere I have lived or visited for a long time complains about their drivers. Every single one. And every single place I've lived or spent a significant amount of time is, they all say, well, man, that's just the weather here. If you don't like it, just wait 10 minutes and it'll change. Everywhere says that. Here's another complaint. I'd like to move back to a state that doesn't actively try to kill its residents. Yeah. What are you talking about? We're actively trying to kill our residents in Texas? Stop it. Yeah, that's why people are moving here. That's why they're basically giving you a U-Haul if you would move from Texas to California. Yeah, that's right. Here's another one. Dallas isn't so bad, but all caps. F Texas. And I say that as a 40-year-old lifelong Texas resident. The state has become a third world S-hole. Wow. These people's worldview has made them so negative and so pessimistic that they can live in the greatest, most luxurious, prosperous state in the most prosperous country mankind has ever created in 10,000 years of human history and still be miserable. This is what happens when you listen to the TV. This is what happens because they're fed a steady diet of what? Oh, this place is racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe. There are 1,000 comments in the comment section that bring up abortion. Oh, well, half of the states don't even have human rights anymore. Here it is. When more than half the population is actively losing their rights, it does kind of reflect of a third world nation. I just saw over 1 million children lose health coverage. Heaven forbid a woman have any... Here, I should do this. This actually would fit. Tell me if this doesn't work better. When more than half the population is actively losing their rights, it does kind of reflect that of a third world nation. We just saw over 1 million children lose health coverage. You mean taxpayer subsidized health coverage? They can still go to the hospital, right? No one's blocking them from Heaven forbid a woman have any issues with her pregnancy. That's a death sentence now. Stop it! That's silly. All right, hang on. Nice of you to think we're living in the land of the free, but that really only works well for one kind of person. I think she means bears, right? Which is probably you with your blatant ignorance of the world around them. Really? Endometriosis death sentence now? Stop it. These people have been trained to hate this country. And my takeaway from this is they really do hate this place, don't they? They really do hate living here. They are really just unhappy, miserable people. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents would trade places with you in a second. Your standard of living is so awesome. Your healthcare is so awesome. Your food is so awesome. Your house is so awesome. Your air conditioning, your medicine. So is Texas really that bad, or are these people just miserable? Hey, how's it going? It's the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. In a raging online debates over if money were no object, where would you live? I'm surprised at how many people just genuinely do not like this place. They genuinely don't like it. And it's not just Dallas, it's the whole DFW area. And really, it turned into a critique of Texas as a whole. And one thing that I realized by reading through the comments is some people's political view, their worldview, their ideology, whatever you want to put behind it, has made them absolutely miserable. It has made them hate a place that has been good to them. There's not a whole lot of better places to live on planet Earth than Texas in 2024. And when you say, well, where else would you go? You have a lot of people alluding to they would like to leave the country, but they have a hard time nailing down where they would like to go. A lot of people who are saying they would like to leave who actually do give a geographic alternative are saying things like California or Seattle or just somewhere up north, just the vague concept of somewhere up north. I'll go to Detroit then. But it's a great illustration to see how this has sucked the life out of so many people, this constant anxiety, this constant fear mongering about things that do not deserve your anxiety. You know, how many of these things are hoaxes? The idea that Texas is some racist place where minorities aren't safe. Hoax. Absolute hoax. And it's just based on what? Fear. The idea that Texas is destroying the planet because of all of our emissions and our giant carbon footprint and all of our industry. That's a big complaint. Think about like when you see an oil rig. What do you think? Oh, good. More oil. We certainly need that. Probably some guys have a very good paying job. There's probably some guy that owns the outfit that's becoming a millionaire or something close to it. That's fantastic. You and I see an oil rig, we clap. We're like, yeah, wealth is being created. Some Jed Clampett there got his Beverly Hillbillies millions, maybe. You don't know. It's a beautiful story because I know stories of people who've discovered oil and now they're millionaires. It's fantastic. I get excited. What do they see? What do these people see when they have an oil rig come into view? You're destroying the planet is what you're doing. You know what you're doing? The carbon footprint that's going to come out of that oil rig is going to be some thousands of tons of CO2. And the workers there are going to be exploited probably by some capitalist pig who's worth more than 1,000 of his lowest employees. And they get miserable when they see that. Their worldview makes them miserable. What do you think? 800-288-WBAP. 800-288-9227. Let's ask Terry in Springtown. You're on 820 AM now, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Terry.
Hey, all these people are whiners. If they think that it is so bad here, get the hell out. Well, there's nothing holding them in Texas. There's nothing holding them in the U.S.
Well, that's a lot of like that was my wife's initial reaction. But as I explained to her, a lot of people, they're born here and they have family here, and their mom and dad are here, and their sisters are here, and their cousins and their nieces and nephews. And they might have kids in school. They might have a good job. Their spouse might have a good job. There's a lot of people who live here who can't leave because their standard of living would go down if they left. And you would think that would be enough to have them on our side. But a lot of people who are here who don't want to be. And I felt like that when I was in New Orleans. Like, New Orleans was fun at first, but after about 10 years, I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. I don't want to live here anymore. And it's not that I hated New Orleans. I just liked Texas better.
Well, I moved out of here, out of Fort Worth, went to Connecticut for 5 years and had a good job up there and everything. And I told my bosses, because we have multiple locations and everything, and then COVID hit, says, I'm moving back to Texas. Let me know if I still have a job.
Hey, man, look, and the people who really appreciate it are the people who left and got to come back. And that's me and you. Like, you really don't know how much you love Texas until you go live somewhere else for a couple years, and then you got to miss the place. So thank you for sharing your story, Terry. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Anything else?
I spent 20 years in the military, so I've been all over the world. And I've spent time in Hawaii, California, Okinawa, Japan, the Philippines. I've seen quite a bit. And, these people don't realize how good they have it.
No, their ideology has told them this is a miserable place. Their success or the success of their parents isn't anything great. And that this is some sort of racist, anti-woman, anti-trans, Jesus rode a dinosaur, we don't believe in science, hellhole. I mean, they truly, and that's the lesson I'm taking away from this. There's a lot of people who truly believe this is a terrible place. Like this morning, the wife and I went to the new Buc-ee's, that's just north of Hillsboro. We're big fans, and we hadn't been there yet, and so we did a quick road trip down there. And look, when you and I see that Buc-ee's is 74,000 square feet and has 120 pumps on it, we think, oh, yeah, that's what we call a gas station. That's a Texas version of a gas station. Good for Buc-ee's. Some people see that and they're just horrified. They're like, oh my God, think of the carbon footprint. Think of all the trees that were cut down for that big square of earth for these capitalist pigs who are just selling oil and destroying the environment. And they don't even care, and they're eating animals, and it's whatever. Some people are genuinely made to be just absolutely miserable people because of their political ideology. And on some levels, I kind of enjoy it. Coming up next, we got you another episode of First Impressions on deck. The two TV shows that we're going to review this week, Get Smart, and what was the other one? Archer. Get Smart and Archer. That's coming up on First Impressions on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right. I had mentioned a few minutes ago that me and Mrs. Parker actually took a trip down to the new Buc-ee's.
I miss Parker.
Buc-ee's is something that we both love, but as a Texan, it really crystallizes the ideal of, everything's bigger in Texas. And we do this on purpose, and it's so fun. This is one of the things I really appreciated when I left Texas for a few years, is not everybody was like it. Not everyone's like we are. And I found it dull. I found it boring because Texans make everything a competition. Everything is a competition. And you know what? That's fun. And not only is it fun, it gets better results. You end up with better people. You end up with a better culture. You end up with better everything. So in other places, when everything's not a competition, the results are very disappointing because no one's trying to win. Win what? I don't know. I'm a Texan. I don't know. There's not a trophy or anything, but Joe Rogan made the point that when he saw the statistic, what an amazing statistic about our state is that there are more tigers in private collections in Texas than are in the wild in all of the rest of the world. And that sounds like a made up statistic, but he goes on and he jokes about something that is probably close to the truth. He says, I know how this happened. For one thing, in Texas, they only have like 6 pages in the rule book. Yes. I mean, that's a metaphoric exaggeration, but that's sort of the idea. We do have a bend toward limited government and freedom and less rules. So, yes. And then he says, so some guy said, there's nothing about a tiger. I'm going to go get me a tiger. Well, his neighbor said, oh, man, he's got a tiger. I'm going to go get 2 tigers. And then the first guy said, I'm not going to let this guy out tiger me. And he opens Tiger World. That's how it works. You realize this is how you and I, Texans, ended up with the homecoming mom. See, if you leave the state, you have to explain yourself to people. And when I was explaining to people in other states, like, yeah, we do different things there. Like, we have homecoming moms. And they're like, what do you mean a homecoming mom? Like a corsage? I'm like, oh, no, that's probably how it started. Some Texan was taking his date to homecoming and he got her a nice little flower to put on her lapel. And the next guy got his date an even bigger flower. And then the original guy probably got a huge flower and then started putting ribbons on it. And then it's grown into this massive thing that takes up basically all the real estate of your torso with ribbons and bells and stuffed animals and LED lights and an MP3 Bluetooth sound system and probably a microwave thrown in there too. Like that is the result of this hyper competitive culture. And it's a good thing. So you know what we have that no one else has? We have homecoming moms. We have these big, ridiculous, awesome homecoming moms. But it works out in other ways. When you see people in a subdivision and people are trying to have the best lawn. If you want to have awesome lawns in a subdivision, just have a contest where someone wins lawn of the month. And you'll see dudes out there putting in some work because they want to beat the other guy. And it's so fun. And it doesn't sound fun, but when you take that aspect of life away, it seems so lame. Like Louisiana was so lame because they weren't always competing. When you wonder why people's yards look sloppier, why women don't wear makeup to the grocery store. And, there's all kinds of tiny little ways that this expresses itself. And one of the big, beautiful ways that I'm just super proud of is Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's is the result of some guy in Texas wanted to build a gas station and his competitor built a bigger gas station. And then, I'm not going to get out gas station by this guy. And pretty soon you're ending up with a place that has 120 pumps and a giant pavilion, rectangular prism that looks like a Walmart supercenter. And that's a gas station. Out gas station that, suckers. And now we've exported it. It used to be like a Texan thing that showed up in Alabama. Now there's some in Tennessee and God knows where else. And they may even be building some up in Yankee stands somewhere. But this is what we send out into the world. And you should be very proud of that. And it breaks my heart that there are a whole slew of people who have been convinced by, I can't believe this is so political, but their ideology, their world outlook, that you're a spoiled brat if you can't appreciate living in Texas, especially in 2024. No, it may not be perfect. No place is perfect. No, it may not have your total preference in political policies. I'm a libertarian. No place does. I can't go anywhere and have all of my political itches scratched. That's a weird metaphor, but it works, right? So be proud of it. Next time you go past the Buc-ee's, be like, yes, Texas rules. Next time you see a gigantic homecoming month, yes, Texas rules. When you see those guys that have to park at the very back of the parking lot at Home Depot or wherever because they have an F-350 with Bigfoot tires on it and it's jacked up so the whole thing's like 12 feet tall and you're like, I bet you that guy can't even go through a drive-through at Taco Bell. You know what else you say? Good for him. It's a beautiful place to live in. And on top of all that, we've got the Dallas Cowboys, who at least made the playoffs. Rangers won the World Series. Stars and Mavs are in the conference finals. If you can't be content with DFW/Texas right now, you're just a miserable person. That's my theory.